welcome back to Location 1980's Art Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Fortune, my co-host, Eric Ringman.
Good evening.
Our special guest tonight, Stephanie Snee. This is the Art Podcast where we like to talk about art. We love art. We love the artists who make it. We love the processes and techniques that they make the art. And more importantly, we like to find out the story behind the art. So today we're going to talk to Stephanie about the show that we're sitting in. Eric, tell us, our audience, what's a little bit different about our those audience members that are just listening. Where are we at? What's different? What's happening?
Yes. So we are in a brand new location. The last, 6 or 7 episodes, we've been shooting in the dedicated podcast studio space in the back, but we are in the heart of 1980s Gallery, the beating heart of our whole establishment here, and it is full of a variety of artwork from the F.eminine U.ndertones show, which is still running.
Yeah.
And Steph, what's the closing date on that? The closing reception?
July 26th, 6 to 9 p.m.
All right, and we will repeat that many times throughout this program.
Yeah.
But these walls are covered with art curated by Stephanie here.
Yeah. And the big difference between we're not on a different location technically, we're on the same property. We're a few 100 feet away. The reason we wanted to do this is because Stephanie did curate the show. She handpicked a lot of the artists.
As well as being in it.
And being featured. You can see her piece right here. And for those of you just listening, it's 2 feet walking on actual shells that you found.
Those are real eggshells.
Okay.
They were dyed for Easter and then afterwards whitewashed. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Steph, F.eminine U.ndertones, you picked the title and you curated and you were the gallerist for this show. We're going to talk more in depth about that, but what was your main purpose about just wanting to do a show with exclusively local female artists, yourself included?
Back in December, we had our holiday show here, and we were throwing out ideas for shows for the year, and someone mentioned doing an all-women show, and I thought that would be a perfect opportunity for me to get to know Location 1980 and for everyone to get to know me and how I run things and, the other communities of artists that I'm a part of. And yeah, so I just reached out to Jill and said, hey, I'd like to help out with that one. And I have a process for running art shows from the last studio that I ran. And yeah, so we just kind of took it and ran with it.
We did. You guys crushed it. You grabbed the reins with authority. And we're going to talk more about that show. But first, I forgot to ask, have you ever been on a podcast or a podcast specifically talking about your art?
I have never been on a podcast.
Oh, well,
that I can.
Cheers to that. We had a lot of rookies. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, including ourselves on episode 1.
We were all rookies at one point. Well, cool. Well, welcome. We're just going to talk about art. Like I said in the intro, we're fascinated with artists, what they make, how they make it, and then their why. So we usually start with a little bit of an intro to like your personal opening to art. Were you a kid who always did with crayons and you crushed it in grade school, or did it come later? What was your introduction to art, like your furthest art memory?
Yeah, I'm one of those kids that drew as soon as I could. Every second of every day I was drawing or working with beads, clay, everything. So I spent a lot of years in daycare growing up, and it's just like a way to pass the time. And then in school, I'd finish up with math and I'd be drawing in the margins of the book, or somebody would see me draw, like say, hey, can you make a cover for me? Can you draw this for me? So from a very young age, I would say it was commission artwork. So people were always asking me to do something for them. So design a t-shirt or,
And so that's important too, because usually you have to kind of gain some acumen or skill set before you start actually executing commissions. But if it happens so early, it was just natural to you, like, hey, draw this, and you did it. Was there something in particular that you like drawing? Unicorns, tanks, I don't know, whatever, somewhere in between?
Yeah, I doodled a lot, so just abstract, little faces, cartoons. I always worked in ink. I am really big on what kind of texture I use, so I didn't really like crayons or colored pencils or anything scratchy. So yeah, always ink. And yeah, I was really good at lettering and making things look realistic. So, I wanted to look like this person, or, so I was very early into realism.
Okay. And did you take that forward into high school, and then I'm not sure of your education. We've known each other for years, but we haven't had this conversation yet, which is great for the audience too. What art school did you go to?
I went to LCAD, Laguna College of Art and Design.
And you're local. Did you grow up in Orange County here?
I grew up a little north of Seattle, and I've been here for about 16 years. So I came here for college and then just stayed.
That's a good plan. For all the other artists out there listening, or would-be or aspiring artists, definitely move to Orange County and stay.
Yeah.
Make art. It's very inspirational. So when you went to LCAD, what was your main focus? Like I stumbled my way through art school, and I knew that by the time I left, I didn't even want to do my major anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes in school, the way academia is set up, it's a little too late. They'd prefer you to stay another year and spend another year of tuition before you switch majors, even though the important part is what you want to do, which is weird in art. I could understand how it could be like physics. You need to know how to do this. So did you find by the minutia and litany, I know Laguna LCAD is very big on representational art,
Mm-hmm.
at least they used to be, or maybe that's their reputation.
Yeah.
But did you find at a point between freshman foundations and fundamentals, by the time you graduated, did it shift, or did you find something that you're like, oh, I didn't even know I like ceramics, or something like that?
So I was the last year that they did this thing called hybrid degrees, and so half of my course load was traditional fine art, atelier style painting, and the other half was illustration. And I would say traditional illustration. The school changed a lot after I left, and they do a lot more digital work, a lot more video, game art and all that, which they had started up then, but now it's a whole different game. So I was already kind of switching, straddling two different kind of study courses, I guess.
And then how did your degree reflect that? What's your BFA? What's the major?
So I have a BFA in illustration and fine art.
Nice. That's cool. And then so upon graduation, we're like, this is what I'm doing. A lot of times, especially artists, and definitely at LCAD, you hit the ground and it's like, oof.
Yeah.
Now what?
Well, yeah, when you graduate, the first thing is like, okay, I need to make money. So immediately started teaching private lessons, group classes, and that kind of thing. And then about a year and a half after graduation, I was pregnant with my son, so I went into motherhood really quickly. And then started teaching art lessons from home, and also doing mural projects. So I basically just was constantly applying to things, and there's so much variety in the art that I do, and so much variety in like the kind of commissions I've done, or as my degree was split, everything else also. Like if you go in my studio right now, you'll see like very distinct bodies of work that almost look like they could be different artists.
They do, but they're
Yeah.
all quite skilled, which is a rarity, I feel like. And I'm thinking, when you talk about like murals, is that commercial stuff mostly, or who are your clients there?
I've done commercial murals, and I've also done murals that it was a commercial job, but they let me do my art. So yeah.
It feels a little bit almost like a session musician, where it's somebody who's so talented at all this stuff that some a composer or director or whatever comes in and they're like, yeah, here's the shit I want and here's the style I want it in, do it. And it sounds like you could kind of execute on that wide variety. Is that a lot of what that period was like for you, job wise?
Yeah, so I used to do murals for interiors of Mod Pizza, and
Oh, yeah.
there's one in Bixby Knolls.
Shout out to My Pizza.
Yeah, all over.
What's it, a pizza?
Yeah, it's a pizza chain from Seattle.
No, I mean the mural, the artwork.
Oh no, kind of it falls in line with their graphic design. So, but those jobs, it was specifically they want this image on the wall.
But hand
so
down.
yeah, hand painted, stencil tape, however I needed to do it to get that like a very, very specific image. So nothing reflecting my personal artwork at all. And then, yeah, I think the last one I did that was actually my own artwork and where they just let me have free range was in Main Place Mall in Santa Ana. They had panels that were blocking off empty storefronts while they were doing construction inside, and so there's a mural there that I did a few years ago, but that it actually moves around the mall,
Nice.
to block whichever.
Is that more recent? Because Main Place is kind of getting the second wind. They're reforming themselves a lot right now.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
Okay.
And it's just fun to go there and be like, okay, where is it today? And kind of search around for it. And yeah, they've added foliage, I guess, around it. There's parrots and
Like they
kind
painted
of
that,
trompe-l'oeil
they added it
florals.
onto the painting, or there's literally like plants growing
They
on that?
didn't paint on it. They added fake leaves and such
Okay.
around it. So it looks good though. So not bad.
I like to introduce our audience into the technicality of what you do best. What would you call your pen and ink? I've seen some of your best work be really small, super tight. I own an original of Werewolf, I think it is. Would you say that's one of your favorite ways to draw? Because you really get down. Out of all the work I've seen, which is impressive of yours, those little inks are just so, they could be anything, and you do them really well.
Those are the ones that everyone seem to resonate with or gravitate towards, and I think because there's an immediacy in them and they're fun, and a lot of them are kind of in the realm of horror art as well, because I do most of them in October. And ever since I was little, I used ink, and then you go through art school, gouache, watercolor, acrylic, everything, and then graduated immediately and went right back to what I knew. So it's
another follow-up question to that, because I've gone through this recently with myself and trying to translate what I do well in like palette knife plein air stuff to mural work to like, how do you make that bigger? Because a lot of what I do, trying to decipher it myself was like, the first time I ran into a wall was like, how do you make this bigger? Because the tools change because of scale and maybe the material you're using, because instead of like really expensive acrylic, and now you're using this house paint and rollers instead of a knife. And I'm curious, have you ever had some success translating one of your little inks into then a large scale mural, and how did you do that? If you've done it.
A lot of drawings look really good when they're tiny and small, and when you make them big, that's when you see weird things with proportion or it just doesn't make sense. So usually when I'm drawing for a mural, I do draw it a little bit bigger as well.
It changes your methodology?
A little bit, yeah. I'm more particular. A lot of people use a projector, and I've tried that, depending on the lighting, where you're at. There were a couple spaces where they didn't even have electricity, so I couldn't like plug a projector in, or it was in a hallway that was so tight that there's no way I could project, because there's only 3 feet of space before there's another wall, so I couldn't get the projector back far enough.
Eyeball it, or?
Yeah, so one thing that I really like to do is use a Cricut cutter and make like a stencil, like a vinyl stencil of specific parts, maybe if there's typography or just some kind of section that needs to be really accurate. I'll make a little vinyl stencil of that, transfer it on the wall, and just use that for points of reference. Nice,
because you're always going to flex. For all of our art nerds out there that are geeking out on technique, what would you think, or what would you say the best thing to go from like ink and paper and then to get that same kind of look on a wall? Is it black aerosol, or is it tape paint to get those hard lines?
So when I do inkings now, I use something very much like a quill. It's called a nib. Basically separates a little bit as you press down. So it gives you can get a fat line or you can get a hair thin line. So really good variety in line work. And then, so taking that to a mural, I like to use a brush. So
okay.
Yeah.
what kind of brush and what kind of ink? Like, how would you change it? Like, I'm just curious because like you're going for the same aesthetic, but upscaling is.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found like if I do this on ink and paper, when I upscale, this is a great replacement?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
the brush is like a giant Japanese
Well,
brush.
kind of as a corollary to that, like with those small ones, the size of the tool with respect to the whole thing, because these are like 3" by 3"
yeah.
things sometimes. It's very obvious looking at it, the stroke or the hand of the craftsman is clearly in those small ones. You can kind of see this artifact of the tool that made it. And that's obviously a very different tool when you're going on the big scale. And it's like, are you trying to retain that kind of those little imperfections that are what make it perfect and identifiable as as handmade and as kind of raw and like not machine made in the small one? How do you replicate those kinds of things, or do you replicate those little?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've done any murals that look like my inkings, but just as a general rule of thumb, with doing a mural or a painting or anything that's going to have detail eventually, you work general to specific. So I have a giant sprayer. I can knock out a huge gradient on the wall in a couple hours, or depending on the size. So yeah, sprayer, spray paint is always great.
No tool is safe.
Yeah.
You'll use it all.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's, or rolling on paint. And then, yeah, just as you come to the foreground, then you get more specific with it, and you can use brushes, and you can get the same little detailed hatch mark lines with a round brush.
Sweet. Yeah. I think we just taught a class right there.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, are you still doing a lot of this kind of work now?
I just started to try to get back into murals on an app called Thumbtack. So I have an LLC, and I have a page on there, and people can find me, and there's listings.
Is that like it connects artists and clients, or what's that app about?
Yeah, so it's kind of like Angie's List, but for, I'm sure there's a lot of the same work from Angie's List on there. But it's basically, work for hire. So painters, caricature artists, muralists, illustrators. I actually was getting a caricature done, and the caricature artist was talking to me and was like telling me like, yeah, you got to get on Thumbtack. And
sweet.
Like 3 days later, I signed up and started to do that.
Shout out to Thumbtack and Angie's List.
And I want to see that caricature.
Yeah.
Where were you at to get the caricature? Caricature.
My friend's daughter's first birthday party.
Nice.
When you went from doing everything after school, recently becoming, at the time you're a new mom, so now you're a mom. You just recently graduated. You started doing murals, teaching classes. It seemed like a menagerie of all these things. What was the time period between then and when you started B-Minus Studios? Can you tell us how you graduated into like going from? Because I did the same thing, like going from a garage or whatever spare bedroom, whatever studio you could.
Part of the living room.
And then you kind of just like, dude, you know what? I'm so pro, or this opportunity has to happen. Like, in order to go further, I need to change. Describe to us, like, what was your transition between that time period?
Yeah. So B-Minus Studios was started by Julio Labra, Maureen Mahaparn, and Chris Barnacle in about 2014. In Santa Ana, and I was friends with them and kind of, listening in on the decision making and them picking the name and starting this space up. My son was about 1 at that time, and I wasn't ready to have a studio, in a different city where I would have to be away from him. So I think it was 2 years later that I decided just to get a little corner of it. Chris was going to go to Oregon, and he said, do you want to have my spot for a few months? And, he was supposed to be gone for 3 months.
And that's the...
and then I was there for 7.5 years.
And for those of you just listening or even watching, is it the Santoro building? It's a historic, famous...
Yeah, it's a 100-year-old building in the art district of Santa Ana. They do an amazing art walk, and it's just a great community. for the arts, and that's what kept me there for so long.
So you went from a 3-month like studio sit to a 7-year.
Yeah,
Ended up
so
running
one
it.
by one, each of the artists was, Irene went to a different studio, and then she moved to New York. Julio went to go teach art in China. We had other artists that came in, Stephen Cummings, Cody Jimenez, a ton of artists over the years. So like people would leave, we'd find a new group of artists to replace them, and we'd kind of, we'd have guest artists every month. So we'd be running these art shows that would coincide with Art Walk, and some nights we'd get, 500 people through our studio. So
That's that was the first Saturday. I think it still is in Santa Ana.
Yeah.
First Saturday of the month. Laguna's the first Thursday of the month. I'm not sure about LA. If you could survive, it's more like I don't know. When's the last time you've been up there for Art Walk? But it could be pretty gnarly.
You talking about the brewery one? Or?
No, just the downtown LA Art Walk, if it even exists. But in that building, it's 3 stories plus the basement.
Mhm.
And I've been there, and I'm pretty sure it's where we met.
yeah.
Yeah, I just liked your work, but you had been here too as well, I think, at some point.
Yeah, so you guys had an artist that was part of this space called Dorian Yarnelson, Dorian the Historian.
Shout out to Dorian.
Dorian
Yeah.
the Historian.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah.
Big props to Dorian. Love his style.
So
He'll walk in like here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, right.
I just happened to be in town.
Dorian had a solo show at B- Studios, and after that, you guys had a holiday show here, so I came and checked that out. And then I just came to a couple shows here after that, and I really liked the energy and the people and
This
the
like
variety.
mid-2010s or like what are we talking in?
I don't even know. Where are we at? We're in 2024 now.
Barely.
Barely, he
Maybe
said,
like
as you could hear the 4th of July fireworks
maybe
going
like
off.
5 years ago. I don't know. Pre-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Dorian was an artist who comes frequently, or did it at one point, to our figure drawing workshops. So every Wednesday, if you've ever listened to our podcast, you know that that's kind of the heartbeat. Every Wednesday we have a lot of artists, and this is a good story how him coming here to draw figures and then going elsewhere, meeting Stephanie, kind of brings us all together, and that's how the web grows and spreads. And I came there, I don't think it was Dorian's show. I think I just frequented the Santoro building and the Art Walk in general.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing one of your pieces, and I bought it, and it was really
Yeah.
like affordable, and I just liked the little werewolf. And it might have been during Halloween, I'm not sure, but I had to have it. I still have it. I love it. And
Yeah, I think
always-
4 to 5 artists here have those little inkings.
They're sweet.
Just good little takeaways. So.
They're great, and they're I was on a kick of micro art purchases,
Mhm.
like a whole nother little gallery. Like you had to be really small to come in the gallery. That's how it should look. But I had the piece, and then when you contacted me, I was really excited that you wanted to come here.
Mhm.
And coming in 1980, did you see a difference or a similarity between B-? Because that studio was what maybe it almost looked like a school,
Mhm.
like a. I'm trying to describe the Santoro building. It's historic. It's beautiful.
Yeah, red brick, warped wooden floors,
And you were like in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
arches, and yeah.
Tall ceilings, but like you had like maybe a floating wall or something. So
Mhm.
there could be one artist or 4 artists in there.
Mhm.
A lot like the brewery.
Yeah, we
You've
had
done
up
it
to
different
5
spaces.
artists at one point, and then at the end there were 2 of us.
And then there's a common bathroom like down the hallway, so it's kind of like a dormitory situation.
Mhm.
So when did you decide to leave? When you just like, was that last year? I can't even remember, because you're one of our newest artists here, arriving in 1980.
Yeah, I got here in October, November.
Okay.
I had both studios for Dia de los Muertos, because they do a really big art walk for that. And yeah, I love that building. So the difference is there, the art walk is very established, and you have a lot of music and food vendors and crafters, and it's really big for one night. The rest of the month, the town is very quiet, and there's lawyers, photographers, variety of people in the building that are not specifically painters as their art form. So here it's all art, and everyone has a common goal, and there's so much opportunity for collaboration and just the variety and the talent. It's a great space. So I already knew about this place for several years, and then in Santora, they were upping the rent, the building's falling apart. I had water coming from the ceiling a couple times in the year, and I just, I couldn't comfortably have guest artists show art there anymore.
So you're worried about the art? And
I was worried about the art.
How it looks?
Yeah, and just,
It seemed like COVID too, to that point.
Yeah.
It seemed like COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in a lot of art scenes, probably, all over the country, really, or the world. But it seemed like after COVID was over, because the whole time, it happened here too. I was like, oh, what are we gonna do? In fact, we probably made more art. We didn't have a lot of shows. We had no shows, but we did have people making art the whole time. And it was like a really safe, creative vibe. It was.
Well, in an indirect sense, I came here because of COVID.
Right.
Yeah, I would have been doing something very different, probably.
Sure.
And just to support that point, I didn't know anybody coming in here, really know them. Definitely not like I do now. And that's exactly what happened during that period. I mean, I would come straight here from work a lot of days and then just be here until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. or something. Everybody was like that. There was a shit ton of stuff being produced.
Yeah, it was happening, and it was good. It was a great, all right. Because I'm thinking up to that point, we'd already been here 12 years, and then the gnarliest financial situation possible as far as artists. I'm like, no artists are going to be able to pay rent, and
how are we gonna sell without shows?
Yeah, we can't have any people over. But then we kind of made it through in our own way, and we came out the other side pretty good actually. I'm stoked and proud about that, and all the artists who stayed and those who come and went, yourself included, to help bolster. We have new talent, we have new audience. We do the podcast now, but
I feel like it kicked us into a higher gear.
Yeah, but it seems like other places may not have come out the other side as strong. And Santa Ana was
a lot of restaurants shut down, a lot of little galleries shut down, but COVID, it was a nightmare for a lot of people, but for artists it's like, oh no, I'm trapped inside, I have to spend time with my art now. It could almost have been a dream for for that side of it. So a lot of things. It took away the art walk for a good 2.5 years in the numbers of people out, and that really hurt art sales and
sure. So your last one was in October, I think. You were straddling. You already had the studio here. I will take a little bit of credit for recruiting you. I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
You wanted to, and I wanted you here. And we also had the most.
It happened in a day.
Yeah. We had the most.
I messaged you on Instagram. Do you happen to have a space available? Here it is. Sign up. Okay.
And it also was the most forward studio, so it's an actual storefront. So when we do have shows and people come through the front door or look in the window, they're seeing Stephanie's work, and that brings me to my point, which is a good reason why I wanted you to spearhead Feminine Undertones, or lead. At the time, it was just going to be called the all-female or all-women's show of art showcase, this is actually the second one we've done here. But this one was, it's always going to be a fun idea. I like exclusive stuff. It's sorry, there's no guys in it. Mm-hmm. Let's just deal with it. Nobody was upset, and we did it and we crushed it. And it was a great concept. So you've been here since October. You get to participate in the Christmas show. And then you grab the reins of this show. So let's say we'll catch our audience up to you and Jill, who's off camera. Hi, Jill. You guys were in charge, and you had an idea, and you took it from women's show to Feminine Undertones. Tell our audience more about that process. We had a deadline way in the future. I like to put it on the calendar, commit, and then work backwards. And then I'll just let you go, because I kind of purposely took my hands off the steering wheel and let you guys drive it.
Yeah. Yes, woman run. Also.
Absolutely.
So I sent out invitations to people from different art communities I've been related to. So We have a
Call
ton-
for entry, specifically, like
Yeah. This was kind of by invitation for this one.
to be in the show.
Yeah.
So you personally sought these folks out,
Yes.
and we're messaging them
Yeah,
like, hey, I'm
we
setting
were
this
gonna
thing
do
up.
a call for entry, but we didn't think there was time for that. So.
Because that's such a process to do. You were like,
Yeah,
I don't think we can handle
that's a whole
doing the
different
jurying and the
process.
admin.
I know so many talented women artists that for this show, I was like, we don't even need to do that. There's so many around that I know. So I have a couple artists in the show from the Santor building, of course, a couple from LCAD, and then we have a ton of amazing women artists on property here as well, and then a couple artists that I just had befriended on Instagram over the years and have really liked their work and reached out, and luckily they're like, yeah, I want to show.
So once you get the lineup, we're just trying to talk to the audience through how this works.
Yeah, so I kind of had an idea of who I wanted to invite, and then you guys also knew some other artists, and we just sent out a little message saying, hey, we'd like to put this art show together for this time. We'd like to show 3 of your current best or most recent pieces that you're proud of and would like to show. And I had a couple artists send me a few different options, and we kind of talked about what to show and why. So I had some really good conversations there. And then so the idea, the concept kind of behind Feminine Undertones is that the art that women make, you put it all together, there is some common thread or essence that is femininity. And so you can't make art that's separate from how you see the world, from your perspective. So women have have a certain experience. So that's going to reflect in some manner into the artwork. So the artwork wasn't specifically about women or about feminism or anything like that. It was just, these are women, they're making art, let's put it up and let's see if there is a commonality. And I think the show's great, and I think you'll see the handling of the medium, what they choose to make art about, that there is a feminine essence in the work.
There's an undertone. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
And the opposite point is every time I told someone about this show, actually, I'll rewind that. When I told most men that had this response, there was always a man.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately were like, well, how's the feminist show coming? Or why would you do a feminist show? And I was like, I never said that, actually. And it was hard for me to explain exactly what you just did so eloquently, because it wasn't my idea. But I was just raw dog and promoting. I'm just out there marketing. And some of those people, they weren't trying to be derogatory. They were just like, well, they wanted.
That's how it identified in their mind,
Exactly.
without even thinking about it. That's just the way
was
that
the
they
ma-
categorized
that was
it
the masculine-
reflexively.
Yeah, it was the masculine overtone, if you will, to be opposite.
Yeah,
and it's
so
great. It's great to hear you explain
in the
that.
name Feminine Undertones, we put a period after F and U, specifically
Love
kind
it.
of addressing
I love
that
your
like
graphic
women
design.
have had to pursue art with, and push for it throughout history. So we're at a great time to be an artist, a great time to be a woman artist. And so that was
Perfect.
the reason behind the name.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it's a good show.
And it was attended extremely well. So we did the reception. You gave a speech, which was great. It was very well attended. We'll probably add some B-roll to this.
Oh yeah, on the tail end of the YouTube for sure. We'll put those
Because-
highlights. Well, multiple people shot amazing video because it did. It went off awesomely. And
Yeah,
there's
the gallery-
some shows that I've been both here and elsewhere, just art shows in general. They tend to have that strong opening hour, and then sometimes they'll kind of peter off. And this was just thick
Yeah.
the whole
People
way
wouldn't go
through.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like
You're like, "Yeah,
five
what
to
else is
11, with like 100 people in the gallery.
Yeah, and that's just inside the building. It was strong. A lot of prints sold.
Yeah.
Some original work sold. It was a good one.
Job well done, and it's still up. So we're doing the 1980 West Side Art Walk, or we like to call it We Saw, on the 19th. I believe
Yes.
It's a Friday night.
It's the third
And-
Friday of every month.
Yeah, and that Friday night, it's a very casual. Artists may be here with their working in the studios, so you can meet the artist. You can see how they work and what they work on in their studio while they're doing it, purchase art, and also see the formal exhibition that's hanging. And then we're going to do actual closing reception on the 26th, I believe.
That's right.
Also Friday night. So back-to-back nights, which is fun.
And if you can't make it, we have a nice price list that's assembled, so you can send an email or a DM or anything like that if you'd like to, see a catalog of the work and the prices.
Well, we do private tours too. If you're not available on
if
Friday
you're-
night,
yeah,
you
and
can
then also
ring us
if you
up
don't
and
wanna be
set up a
social.
tour. Yeah, or if you don't want to be social.
Well, sometimes the best experience, we call it the very important patron or VIP, exclusive, like walkthrough, private walkthrough. And sometimes if you're serious and you want to buy the work, you're coming to shop for art, you don't want to be in a room with 100 people. You want to just sit with the piece. And I've had people tell me to leave the room. Like, it's a big room.
Yeah.
And I own the gallery. And
But any other energy, because you're like, if this is something I'm gonna purchase,
Sure.
put it in my home probably, or somewhere they work, somewhere they're around all the time, because it's a thing that somehow is important to them. Like,
Yeah.
of course you want to sit with that,
Yeah, give them a second.
unperturbed, unadulterated for a minute.
Slightly off point, and Michelle wasn't in the story, but shout out to Michelle Sturbridge. She had her studio right here by the kitchen. She had a guy walk through, and I forgot his name. It's a client, a patron. He ended up buying a piece, but I was mid-sentence, and I was pitching, which I do. I mean, we're trying to sell the art. Just in case you guys are wondering, all the work looks great, and there's a lot of pride in making the work, and
And it can be yours.
regardless if you sell it or not, you still should be proud, and we're going to present it. But to make it clear, we're in a business of selling art at this point, and so I'm pitching. I'm trying to close, and I get she wasn't here, so I'm trying to represent. I have a rapport with a lot of the artists, all of the artists, and I was saying something, not even like do you want 2 or 3 or any kind of close. Like I wasn't going straight up car sales. But I was just trying to advance the conversation, like, are you just looking or are you actually interested? And I got like 2 words out of my mouth, and he was like, shut up. And I was like, I'm gonna go here. And I just walked away, and he ended up buying a very substantial, significant piece that was big, but he needed that moment. And it wasn't like an hour.
Well, and
It was
to contextualize that story even further, because it is a great story, is he came here courtesy of a different artist. And was looking at this other artist stuff, and then he was walking. He's like, "Oh, you guys got a bunch of artists." So he walks through the whole joint, and then he came across Michelle's stuff, totally spontaneous, sight unseen, and was like, "Whoa, wait, we gotta stop here." And then was so moved by it that he's like, "Shut up."
Yeah, just
And then he's come back to her, and he's bought
I don't need
multiple
to be
pieces.
sold
say that.
to. I'll sell it to myself.
Oh, and he did, yeah, and he's become a collect. That was the first one that he bought, and he's got 3 of her pieces now over like a 4-year
That's awesome.
period.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some more of that. Or if you can't come, like Stephanie said, you can message us or email us, and we'll be happy to provide the links in the emails. But you can get a full price list and either picture or video of pieces you may be interested in. Or the artists that are featured here have plethora of other work that's available as well. I hate to put you on the spot, Steph, but did you have a favorite piece or grouping of pieces in this work that it's not your own, obviously? It's something that we're like, when we're hanging the show or you're hanging the show, I said that I don't really look at the art. I look at the size and what it is, just to get it on the wall before. Then I appreciate the work afterwards. So once you got it all on the wall and all the name tags are up, as you find a piece where you're like, I just love this cute little or whatever it is. There's a couple in here that blow me away, but you go first.
I mean, I love all the work. I arranged it and picked, certain pieces. So yeah, it's hard to say just one.
You keep coming back somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you're in here at night all alone. You keep ending up in front of the same one again.
Yeah, I don't know. I like all the work in here, but I would say I do come to Carolyn Peters' work, and I really like that series. She has.
Are those the pen and ink kind of deals? Or
I believe it's pencil.
Okay.
And
So it's
they're
graphite drawings.
figurative. They're like contour bodies. We also have a little book by her as well.
They kind of remind me of
it's-
that. There was a Polish guy. I 70s or 80s that did a lot of pencil stuff, and it was like, it was bodily, but it was also a little bit, it was almost whimsical dark.
Yeah,
kind of thing. She reminds me of that a little bit.
It's almost circus-esque a little bit.
The contour.
Yeah, it's really playful and
if you're in your
kind
car,
of
get on
emotional
YouTube.
too. There's a piece called Wingless. The lady is kind of contorted, and it's the name is just perfect for the piece. So I like when the name and the piece have a harmony, you know.
Is that something you find a lot of reward and or challenge in with your own work, is naming them? Do you like effortlessly come up with names and you're like, oh yeah, that's good? Or do you do a work that you love and you're like, what the hell do I call it?
Actually, I like words, so I think I
Use your
usually
words,
I like writing, and I think that's just a natural part of when I make an art piece. I'm thinking of a lot of names already, like as I'm making
nice.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that juxtaposition of the title and the piece and having it kind of mean something. So yeah, I like that part. Alexis in this corner over here, her work is also amazing. Good kind of fangirl on her illustration style. And Nancy Chu as well has a very delicate hand and does beautiful gradients and gouache work, and her pieces are so reasonably priced. Somebody should definitely buy those.
I love it.
Because they're, but I love everyone's work. But yeah, the illustration pieces, I think, are speaking to me the most.
Eric, what about you? So we're
On the same subject? God, there's such a variety. These two, I didn't get to meet her. These two that are one on top of the other.
Mm-hmm. Hillary McCarthy.
Yes.
She teaches at LCAD.
Yeah, that lower one. And guys, these are oil. They're oiled?
Oil
Right?
paints.
Yeah,
they're
portraits.
dead on.
And the second one, she's looking right into the viewer. And at once, the expression is like almost like half drunk, about to fall over asleep, but at the same time is like she could think about, I want you to drop dead, and I just would.
It's like Scarlet Witch style.
Yeah, it's like super powered, but also half in the bag. And it's a fascinating combo of energies of like incredibly potent, but also incredibly like, maybe I'll just go do something else at once that you don't see in a lot of media in general. And I caught myself like stuck. I felt like I was getting looked at more than I was looking at the work.
So it looks like she's looking through you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, straight up.
Gypsy style.
Yeah, laser. And then this one, I talked to her for a while. Was it Brooke?
Brooke Hunter.
Yeah, this one especially where the light bulbs are being harvested, and it looks like some 1850s pastoral thing, but then it's got the futuristic CFL bulbs.
Mm-hmm. I think that one's called Reap What You Sow.
Yeah, it's an entrancing thing, for sure.
That's awesome. I had a few. I like this one at the.
That one's hard to beat.
CC, yeah, and we just met her at the Beverly Hills Art Show. Not 2 years, but last October, Scott's booth was near her, and I was drawn to her work.
This is
Remember one?
Krista?
Huh? What's it?
Or what's her name?
Kristen Austin.
Yeah, Kristen Austin. Yeah. So her and her dad came, and it was great to show them around. Because when I first met her, she was one of the few at the Beverly Hills show. There's not too many female artists, and there's definitely not too many African American female artists. So the combo and in her subject matter drew me to it immediately. I was just like, I want to meet her. Super talented, and her work had not only technical ability, but then also what she was saying was very potent from a unique perspective, especially at the Beverly Hills show. It stood out to me, and I was like, I don't know how or when or who or why, but you got to come to 1980 and be a part of a show.
Mission accomplished.
Several things.
And she drove here from Fontana?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Did she? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
It was a bit of a hike.
If you guys aren't listening, don't go to Fontana. not to not see her, but it's far. No. But hopefully she's making work like that there. But this piece that I'm talking about in particular is a woman who's nude, but she's in an atlas type pose, holding the spherical globe, almost glass like globe on her shoulders, the weight of the world on her shoulders. And it's to the point where not only is it anatomically flexing, but there's even like sweat, like
there's beads of sweat rendered in there. The precision's insane.
It's pretty solid. So that was one of my favorite pieces, and I think that your curation put that when you walk in a room, the biggest wall and one of the most potent pieces was right there.
And for you guys that are on YouTube, that aren't on YouTube, this one is visible in the background of the shot, so you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I did just get up and walk to it. Everybody's watching. Sorry about it. Can't help it. Other pieces, let's see. Michelle's work stands out. Figurative work again.
That stuff's killer. And she raked it in on the prints, which is good for her.
Really crushes. But
rightfully so.
I feel the same way, Steph. You did a fantastic job curating the show and handpicking some of the artists. I did want to include some artists that you may have not known before you got here, that you saw their work and decided to include. Ruth Geller and Nancy Anderson, who were just some of our guests.
Yeah, guests recently
on the pod. They made it into the show and they brought their A game. So the show itself is like, I'm not sure how young the youngest artist is, but we got a wide range.
Yeah, we got a solid like half century span.
So Marina Joyce also, she's from the Santora building, and then Nancy Anderson is one of your connections, and I wanted them to talk because they're both into collage, and so just the collaboration and community building and cross connecting of the art show was so good.
Shout out to collage.
Yep.
One of our favorite forms here. Everything looks great, still up for view. We want to check it out. Leading up to this show, and I want to thank you in regards to the podcast, because we did more episodes in a few weeks than we did the whole history of our podcast.
I think we did like 19 episodes in 8.5 hours.
It was so intense to have all the guests, but it was because we knew the talent and we wanted to also tell the story. So to see the artwork on the wall and decipher what you will, especially if the artist isn't there, you don't get the full story. But to have this long format chance to interview everyone, we've done it. And one of the questions I asked all the artists, Amy Kells, Funny Farm, Tracy Manoli,
the Fantastic Fantasy Fun Farm.
Yeah, so Tracy, Nancy, Ruth, and Amy, and Jackie Danger. I asked them all the same thing. I'm going to ask you, during your professional art career, or even before, was there a point where that jumps out to you as specific, that you're a female artist, that you either got passed on the job or you found out you had beef with that? Like, wait a minute, did you find a discrepancy in like your opportunity or a chance where you could get ahead because you were female? Or like, we're just trying to help illustrate the perspective that I don't know because I'm not female, but because we're talking to your point with the feminine undertones, it's one of the things that's not common, because in those answers, Tracy was like, I never even.
Yeah, there was no common thread with everyone we've asked so far.
Up and down,
so what's your?
Yeah, exact. Okay. I mean, maybe not. Maybe nothing happened, or maybe you noticed like, it's one professor sucked or whatever.
I've had teachers say like, oh, maybe consider a different career, or
is this in college maybe, or like high school, or
maybe.
How old are you when they're saying this? Like,
this was in college. Maybe I should take up hula hooping. That was
hula hooping.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was just like an offhand joke. But no, I would say if I've been passed up because of my gender for a job or anything like that, I don't know. I've been passed up for multiple opportunities, and I've gotten multiple opportunities. So you find what is meant for you.
Regardless of gender.
Yeah, regardless. I think trying to be an artist while my son, which shout out to Dante, he, from the point of, when he was born until like 5 years old, trying to pursue art and be present as a mom. You know, that's something that women will probably experience more.
Challenging.
Yeah, than maybe, you know, I mean, there's dads that are responsible for watching their kids, but majority of it, you know, maybe for those young years, is there's a lot that the mom has to do. So, you know, I would say that was tricky.
That's more of an obstacle than any kind of.
Yeah, you know, some of these murals I had to drive 8-9 hours away.
Wow.
So I would drive, go work on the wall for 20 hours, sleep a few hours, like sleep here and there, drive back, because I had to be back to get him to, you know, to be there. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was difficult. And also, you know, you want to bring in okay, art takes a lot of time, right? So it can hinder certain relationships. So if you have a child, if you're a woman that's, you know, raising kids, you want to bring them in on that so that you have time for your art and your kids. So luckily my son loves art and he's talented at it as well. So that's something that we share.
Dante's also a pretty good presenter and salesman.
He's much more extroverted than myself, and very confident. So maybe overly confident.
Dante, dude.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. He's 10.
Yeah.
He's 10. He'll sell something to you.
Yeah, he has.
So-
Good.
He has sold me. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
So.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, he's very competitive. I'm not really competitive. I have an idea of what I want to make. You know, block out the
happening.
world. I have to realize this vision. And he's much faster than I am, so like he'll whip something out. He's like, "Oh, I want to do this." Like he just moves so quickly. But then he's also comparing, so he's like, "Oh, mom, like, I think mine's better than yours."
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So
great.
yeah, but I love it. So yeah, I would say as a woman being an artist and having kids, you get to share that with your kids, but then also your kids are pulling you away from your art as well. So that would be the one.
Well, thanks for answering that question, because during this series of podcast guests has been all
From the show.
all women, yeah, from the show. So it's, I don't know if you're 7 or 8 or more than 5, and plus you curated it. We've gotten a wide range of answers. I just thought I'd throw that out there because who knows? In other workplaces, it seems like if I were to summarize the answers that we've gotten so far, is that art is one industry where you can flex regardless of whatever your whatever your category is, or it could be gender, it could be height, it could be whatever.
Yeah, whatever
If
your
you're ready
dreams
to make
gave
some
you.
dope art, like it's gonna like hot knife through that.
I would say,
Minutia.
because I've done a lot of solo shows for women as well, the other gallery space, and I think where you might see a little bit of discrimination is with what people want to pay for the art. I think sometimes women, they kind of expect it to be at a different price range. Honestly, I've seen that.
I think it should be more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the work is the work, and it's, you
Right.
know, it has its history and the whole experience and the training and everything that led to it.
Well, that's a unique answer. We hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah.
As far as, because also too, I think you and I have something more in common than most. Maybe Tracy, because she had the store for a while, but that was mostly her work. But we've represented a lot of other artists, a lot, right? More than most guests we're going to have on the show. Like hundreds, almost, you know. But it's great to hear you say that, because how would you combat that? Like, if you noticed it and you're like, the fuck, like seriously, like,
Yeah.
do you just justify it, like, it is what it is?
If you saw that attitude coming in from somebody,
Yeah.
how'd you deal?
So,
Or maybe you didn't. You just
you know,
noticed
I
it.
kind of would judge the pricing of the work too. So I would ask the artist, you know, to give me prices for the pieces, and then look at that and be like, like that's kind of low for your ability, you know. And that's kind of common with artists. They'll look at their work and kind of like, you know,
No one's gonna buy it for this much.
yeah, they're eager to sell it. So, or they're maybe not seeing their talent because they're humble. So yeah, sometimes I'll just kind of look at the work and be like, okay, it should be here. And then, you know, people coming through, you just notice what people buy and what they don't. And so people don't outrightly say,
Sure.
you know, but you notice. So
There's a trend.
yeah.
Well, good on you for lifting up artists, both male and female, recognizing their value. Again, because we've wore both caps. You know, we're featured artists, but we've also represented other artists. Where you know, full disclosure, full transparency. You know, when you're doing all that, you're hanging the art. You're also making a percentage. So your house. So you have. It's in your best interest to raise the price, but you're doing it in a mentor type way. Just like, hey, you know, I've done this enough. I have enough experience. We're like, let's just kind of get you to the market value. What I think, you know, having seen so much work recently and seen what sells and what doesn't, good on you for helping them up, because coming from another artist, sometimes that helps. Like
sometimes people just don't know where their art sits.
They're just making art.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, the quality of the technique, but also how they framed it and the care that they took, and, you know, everything's done right. So it needs to be priced at that level, because even, you know, to frame your piece takes a lot of time. If you're doing it yourself, you know, it adds to it.
Or if you're hiring Hector, shout out to Hector, who frames a lot of our work here in this room. But he came to the show. So,
good.
So I got a mirror. We needed to. It's total side tangent, but when you're gonna do a big show like this, everything counts: the floor, the ceiling, the lights. Eric, you helped us with the lights, the lighting.
Well, something I've noticed, having been here for several shows and helped set up more than one of them, is that it's not like one big thing that is done right and that makes the show. It's a whole bunch of little things, some of which they individually seem almost insignificant.
Some people would never know.
It's something about like having the full toilet paper roll on there when the show starts. The way the lights are positioned just a little bit, and the floor, but like you say, it's a lot of these things all go together.
To your point, one of the bottom end deals, I guess pun intended, the bathroom came up. We went to redo it, refresh it, and the mirror was too long for years. So this is funny because the bathroom would still be in its current state if every once in a while we just didn't go. And we have multiple bathrooms here, and it's pretty nice actually for our gallery old warehouse. We stepped our game up. And before this show, I was like, one more time, let's do it. And one of the things was, I was like, we need a new mirror. The other one was sagging, and it was too long, and it's just whatever. We dipped it. Jill and I, shout out to Jill, helped me paint it. We painted it, and I went to Hector, who normally frames our artwork, and I was like, dude, I need a mirror. Hector's got mirrors, and I'm like, yo, Hector, you got any mirrors? He's like, oh yeah. And he walks me to the back, and it's just nothing but frame mirrors.
Oh,
and it was awesome. And so we got it, and we did it, and we hung it up. But it helped us kind of, from the best piece in the show and everything an art critic would be looking at, all the way to when you use the bathroom, and there's other pieces in there as well. And I've sold work for 4 figures out of that bathroom. So
yeah.
It's not as unimportant as you think.
Well, that could be a good time to bring up, right? Because this is a good general art topic about bathroom art. Because my neon teacher that I learned under, who is exhibited on multiple continents, she's been at the career for like 40 years or something, and has taught countless pupils neon. I don't know if she gave or sold it to this one piece. There's a very particularly personal piece to a friend of hers. And then, like 6 months later or something, is at that friend's house, and her piece is in the bathroom, and she was really offended. And
that is a sacred art space.
Exactly. I had to bite my tongue from laughing as she's telling this story about how pissed off she was. She was half pissed, half sad that her friend did that, and I'm like, whoa. The bathroom is one of the most revered spots that you can place art in your house. Okay, I believe these 2 reasons primarily. One, everybody's got to see it.
Everybody's going to look at it.
Sooner or later, throughout your party, everybody that's there is going to see that. And secondly, unlike anything that's out in your living room or your hallway or foyer, staircase, wherever, that stuff is going to be contemplated and experienced alone.
Right. In
a very personal moment, no less. And just the fact that you're in, part of going to the bathroom is you shut the door, and it's like the ego comes off for a couple minutes, and you're the actual person.
And you get a breath from the event, so
yeah, exactly.
It's where you're gonna
And it
you
can
know.
catch you off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turn
and,
around,
like
you're
I'm like, what an amazing context to, as an artist, for my viewers to be in to experience my art. I'm like, dude, if I gave somebody my art and they threw it in the loo, that's high regard.
And currently, both pieces in the bathroom are mine, which I don't mind at all. In fact, I'll take advantage of
I've
it.
got a painting in my bathroom as well. If anyone would like to go see it.
That's the ultra VIP bathroom
Yeah.
of the whole 1980 experience right there. It's the hardest one to find, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. Steph, we're coming towards the end now. I would like to ask you, so you've been here, you did the big studio switch. You also just pulled off your first curated show here at 1980, showing us what kind of chops. I'm certain it's not going to be the last one that you fall into wearing that hat. But I'd like to know, personally, what do you have on the agenda, and where can the audience see your work? What's your website? What's your Instagram handle? And what do you have coming up this year that you're like, I want to crush this opportunity?
Okay. Well, I'm all over the place. My handle for Instagram is Snee Ink, SNEEINK. You can see a lot of my inkings. Every October I do Inktober, so I'll do an inking a day. It's where a lot of those little fun pieces come from. My website is daydreamtesserae.com, and I'll probably put it in the comments or in the links.
Link in the
Yeah,
description.
link it in the description.
Which we never did. Now we try to.
We're getting better. This episode, we're going to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my paintings. I also occasionally do murals. I'm wearing, this is one of my paintings on a shirt. You can order this off my website.
Is it a rabbit?
It's a rabbit, yeah. It's a hare.
Bursting out beyond the triangle. I love it.
Yeah. So I have a website that has some print-on-demand options, so people can get prints of my inkings, prints of some of the paintings, or giclées. They can buy original work. They can commission work. So I've got that going. I'm trying to make my art a little bit more accessible. You know, a small selection that people can buy prints of, or they can do merch. So that's going, and then I'm working on a series of watercolor paintings of Italian doors, and I have 3 left, and it'll be a series of 10. So that's a collection that I'm wrapping up in the
Did
next
you
couple
take
months.
those photos, the reference for the doors?
Yes, yeah.
So you went to Italy?
Yeah, I went to Venice in 2011. This is a project I wanted to finish like a decade ago. And I moved studios, and then I rediscovered the drawings.
Shout out to 1980.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out
So
to
it's like, you know
2011.
what, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do this.
Love
So
it.
I've been steadily chipping away at that. And everyone that I show them to, they seem to like them a lot. And I'm just going to be so excited to have them all up with each other. So that's the next kind of body of work that I'm developing.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we gave Dante a shout out.
Yeah.
We gave all the women artists a shout out. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience as far as artwork, the art scene? I'm sure you'll be on again.
Yeah,
so.
please come to the show. Please just come here and eat your lunch with the show. Invite your friends. You know, you don't have to come to the event, but if you just want to experience this, it's really special, and I don't want it to come down. I love the show, so yes, please just come.
It looks fantastic. We just had a couple guest artists walk in the room. One that's on the wall here, Ruth Giller. Shout out to Ruth. Her pieces are right over there. Well, with that, I think it's going to bring this episode to an end. Eric, do you have any other comments about the show, Feminine Undertones, hanging up? Or
God, I was going to
Stephanie's
say
work in
that the
particular?
other comments I have would send us into our episode 2 taping time, so we may have to save those for the next time around. But I'm very excited to see what you got coming up next. I've seen some of the Italian doors already. I like that you've got concurrent bodies of work going on at once. That's something I think some artists, not that it's a bad thing, some get a niche and they kill it in that, but I love somebody who can do stuff that literally looks like it could be 3-4 different people.
Yeah, I'm a chronic task switcher, so
Task switcher.
yeah.
Is that a hashtag? Hashtag task
Is
switcher?
the hash singing slasher?
Well,
Yeah.
they say multitasking, but you're not really multitasking. You're
switching
switching.
tasks.
So
Rapidly, yeah.
I have, I'll lay down a wash of watercolor while that's drying. I'm working on this. If I have something at my studio, I don't feel like driving to my studio. I have a drawing that I'm working on at home. So just constantly switching from
one thing to the next.
So.
Meanwhile, reading a book, frying some eggs.
Being a mom.
Decorating a cake, or I was a coordinator at a wedding this last couple days. Just,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so.
Oh God, we got to get into the wedding. I used to DJ weddings, so we can get into
nice.
wedding talk.
Well, Stephanie, thanks so much for being our special guest tonight, Stephanie Snee, and for my co-host, Eric Ringman. This has been Location 1980's Art Podcast, another episode. If you like listening to talks about art, making art, the artists who make it and why they make it, this is the podcast for you. So thanks for everyone who's listening and supporting us. We really appreciate it. And to the next episode, which will be in about an hour, we'll see you guys then. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you. Closing reception, June 26th.
That's the wrong month, but it's July 26th.
July 26th. I got the first two letters right.
Perfect. Sweet.